Hi all, my name is Professor Luce, and this is going to be your introduction to chapters 1 and 2. Again, I'm sorry for my voice, I'm still pretty sick, so this will probably be kind of short, and then chapters 3 through 5 will be in a PowerPoint presentation and a completely separate file. So I want to take a couple of minutes though and just be able to talk to you about some really basic things when it comes to public speaking, and most importantly is why do you need this class? And of course you're going to think like, well, I might have to give a speech at some point in time, and sure, that's absolutely true. But realistically, you're going to take bits and pieces from this class and then you're going to apply them to other aspects of your life. So, for example, you're going to go out to the job market and you're going to have to do an interview, right? So some of the things that we're going to talk about, like eye contact, being able to have gestures, being able to smile while you're talking, having coherent ideas, those are all things that you're going to want to do during an interview, of course. And then, depending on your profession, you're going to get certain things out of this. So, those of you that are in nursing may think, like, well, I'm never going to need public speaking. I'm just going to be caring for the patient. Except, what you don't know, especially even at Conway, is that oftentimes the nurses, they have to talk to a small group of people. So, what they're doing right now is they'll have Teams meetings, and members on that team have to get together with others and basically give a short presentation about the patient that they're going to refer to. Also, Conway Medical Center is becoming a teaching hospital. So there's actually a lot of potential there. If you ever want to move up in a corporation or your business that you're working for, you're going to have to be proficient at speaking in public, and not just to one or two people, but you're going to have different people at different times. So while you may have a small group of 3 to 4 people, the next time it can be 30. Obviously, if you go into sales or something like that, you have to be comfortable talking to people. If you want to go into education or teaching, you're going to be comfortable talking to people. So it really just does depend on which kind of career path you want to go into, but I promise you, you're going to be able to use these skills at some point in time, no matter what field you want to go into. We're going to talk about lots of other things too, things with critical thinking that just make you a better student, but also a better person outside in the real world. We'll talk about research skills, and at a bare minimum, you're going to use these skills in other classes, whether you go on to get your AAS degree and then go on to transfer to a 4-year institution, or if you decide that you're just going to finish out your career at tech and then get your degree and then move forward. Either way, you're going to use these skills in another class at some point. I know that I found at a very early age that for these to be valuable. So here's some of my background. I'm originally from Michigan, from northern Michigan. In fact, from a small town called Cadillac. It's about an hour north of Grand Rapids, Michigan. I started doing speaking events when I was in high school, and then that continued into college. And then obviously I've been in college ever since then, just in a slightly different role. So I've been doing public speaking for quite a while. But just like you all, I had several jobs before I started teaching. So when I was very young, my first job out of high school was selling coupon books over the phone. That's when telemarketing was still quite prominent, when they didn't have a law that would allow you to get on a list, the do not call list. And that was my first job, was trying to convince people to buy a coupon book without ever seeing them face to face. And that's very difficult to do. When I was an undergrad, I took a couple of different jobs. So I worked in fast food for a while. It was miserable. The worst job I ever had was working in a factory, and that hands down is one of the worst jobs that you could possibly get, unfortunately. It was involved rubber parts. One job that was the absolute worst, and you know, if you've ever been in this industry, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It was selling Kirby vacuums. And if you want some practical experience in persuasion and public speaking, try to sell a freaking $2,000 vacuum. Usually, I think now they're almost up to $3,000 to somebody that didn't even expect you to show up on their door. Not only do you have to talk yourself into the door, you have to demonstrate the product, convince them it's a good product, which it is, but then really convince them that it's a product that's worth their investment. And that's the hard part. Some of the most valuable skills I learned were from that job. I met all kinds of different people. I definitely know it's not a career I want to do, just a lot of long hours and traveling. But it was one of those jobs that, you know, sometimes it's really good to have, but you know it's not for you long term. So selling Kirby vacuums really taught me a lot. I also actually worked in a funeral home for over 2 years, and I'll talk about that throughout the semester. But I've had a lot of variety of jobs that practical experience will be helpful to you throughout the semester. And of course, if you have those examples, it'd be great if you could use those to introduce yourself to the rest of the class next week and tell us about your background, etc. Some other things that you might want to know about me. I have a family, so I have 3 sons. 2 were from my wife's previous marriage. They are 9 and 11. And then our youngest son is about to turn a year and a half in September. So we have 1 dog. She's super, super old. She's over 14 years old. And we are finishing moving into our new house. Our house just went onto the market on Monday, I believe, and so we're in the process of trying to sort that all out as well. It's great. We got 2 acres. I'm super excited about that. I grew up on 20 acres up in Michigan, and so we have a little bit of space now to possibly get chickens and or goats. We may have chickens even by next week. As far as my career, I had the educational background. I went to Miami University, the one in Ohio, then went to the University of Kansas, and I've taught at those 2 institutions, then taught at Truman State for 8 years, taught at Ferris State University for 1 year, and then came down here, and I've been in Myrtle Beach for over 5 years now. What's really cool is that my sister also lives down here in Myrtle Beach, so it's nice having a little bit of family down here. And then my mom and dad live up in Michigan still, but they come down quite often. All of that experience for me is provided me with a wealth of knowledge, not just like the book knowledge, which obviously had to go through the educational system to get that, but also a lot of practical experience. I really love going to yard sales because I'm pretty good at making a bargain, getting a bargain. This house that we have, I actually negotiated to have the lawnmower and the boat included with the house, which do that, right? Like you just buy a house and there it is, but I was able to negotiate it. So you never know how these skills that you learn in this class are going to play out in the long term. And the book mentioned some of the practical skills, and that's great. But I like to talk about some of our own experiences. So I'm trying to share those with you so that way you have an opportunity to express those as well. And sometimes it's just what you hope to get out of the class. Maybe that those skills will be valuable in your future career, and that'd be fantastic. I know what it's like to be a student. I'm also a grad student at Coastal. I am pursuing my MBA. I have 18 credit hours completed, so I will be graduating probably next summer. Just kind of depends on how it works out with the classes. I get it. I know you have a lot of other things on your plate. What I will say is that it's important just to keep track of your assignments and to make sure that you're ahead of them. You'll see on the syllabus there are 2, but there's 1 in particular you need to pay attention to, and I mentioned that in the other video. So the IP is the generic one that applies to all the classes, but the specific one, the instructor course information sheet addendum, that's the one that has the guidelines for our specific class, and it has the schedule in there. You want to pay attention to when speeches are coming up, so that way you can start thinking about some of those topics. Even though we have assignments that help you with those, you want to get a head start, that's perfectly okay with me. So I wanted to keep this kind of brief for chapters 1 and 2. I'm going to keep it under 9 minutes for sure, and kind of give you a brief introduction as to why is public speaking important. I know I have my own reasons, but hopefully you can fill in some of those blanks next week when we do an introductory speech. It's not worth any points or anything like that. I'll give you more details later, but basically just introducing yourself to the class, and you can fill in some of those blanks as to why is public speaking going to matter to you. Alright, thanks all. My voice is gone, so I'm done, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.